Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LFC transfer room. Hopefully, a few people coming straight across from the watch along. I'm not sure if it's worked or not. For those of you who are here, let me know if the link did work or if you had to click yourselves. But all the same, Liverpool come away from this first leg at the San Siro with a 2-0 victory. I'm joined here by Chedu. How are you doing, mate?
Oh, I mean, 2-0 win. I'm doing absolutely fantastic after that.
Can't ask for much better, can you? I mean, I think a lot of people thought this game might be quite an easy fixture, which I was always a bit reserved about. The way the game went, 2-0, we can't complain about, surely.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was one of those that was quite confident but before the game started, but I think by halftime we all realized that we had a game in our hands. And to be honest, I am shocked at the fact that not only did we come out with a win, but the fact that Inter didn't score at all. They were definitely in the front foot throughout the whole game, and I'm just surprised we actually came away with something.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they had chances, but the only time they got really close was in that first half, obviously hitting the bar. I mean, that was a bit of a hands in head moment, quite scary. But yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like they grew into the game and became better as the game went on?
Definitely. I think the first 20 to 30 minutes are a good showing of how it can be tough playing at Liverpool, playing against Liverpool at first. Um, and you could tell that they weren't quite confident at the get go, but around the 50th, 60th minute of the game, they were really into it, really pushing Liverpool. One of the commentators said, and I agree with it, that both teams were playing like it was the last 15 minutes of the game, not like if there were another tie to play. And um, it just they slowly got into it, and you could tell that our players were a little bit like shocked by how strong Inter were coming. Trent being the prime example. Personally, I think Trent had a horrendous game. I think he might have been our worst player by far. Getting absolutely destroyed by Perisic. And it's something that they're gonna have to pay attention to in the next game, because Inter are gonna come even stronger. Of course, having to score 3 goals to actually go ahead in the tie is going to be pretty tough. But nonetheless, I think Inter just were a bit unlucky with the final ball.
Yeah, if we're being honest with ourselves, bias aside, I think that first goal from Firmino would have felt like a bit of a sucker punch for Inter Milan. They, as you said, were growing and growing into that game, and if anyone was going to pinch it, I mean, I felt like it had a 0-0 written all over it by the 60th minute. But if anyone was going to nick it, I thought it was going to be them. I wasn't enjoying the way the game was going. Um, but we've experienced that a lot ourselves over the years, playing okay, playing better, the opposition not having much of a shout, and then all of a sudden they score. So, you take it as it comes. You mentioned Trent. You said you reckon he's one of our worst performers in that game. What particularly about his game were you disappointed with?
I just felt like he didn't have a grasp on Perisic. It was almost like every time the ball went on his side of the pitch, Perisic just had a free go at him. Like either Trent was too far ahead and didn't go back in time, or he just didn't mark him properly. And honestly, I'm surprised it didn't actually cost us. And when Henderson came in, I expected him to come in, but not for Fabinho or for Thiago, and help him cover Trent on the right side, which was quite surprising that he didn't. I mean, in the end, it worked. I think Henderson played really, really well. Um, but Trent has been very, very solid defensively this season. But I think today is one of those performances to forget. I just think he wasn't at his peak today, but we know how Trent is. He has a bad game, and he's the first one to admit it and to pick himself up to be even better the next one.
Ayush, good to see you, and thank you to everybody who is in the comments and watching. Please do like this video and subscribe, especially if you're new. We love to see it. Ayush says, Robbo wasn't at it in terms of attacking impetus. Trent had an atrocious game, so agreeing with you. He just didn't defend, depended on centre-backs to cover him. Yeah, I mean, I'd argue that that's probably more tactical. You know, he is essentially a complete wing back, and he does almost operate as a winger for us. So I don't think that was him going rogue. But when you had Elliott on that side of the pitch, he was very far forward as well, not covering for Trent as much as I think he did before he picked up his injury. Again, I feel like that's all tactical. So not particularly a game for our fullbacks, it appears, Chedu.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm surprised Elliott actually started, of course, being out for so long. And I think it's just been shown that it might have not been the best decision. I'm a big fan of Harvey. That's no secret. But as you said, he was going forward quite a lot. And again, why I thought Henderson would come in to help Trent defend. Because with Harvey being so far forward and Trent doing the exact same thing, that right side was really, really exposed. And that's where Perisic shined. And same with Çalhanoğlu, who, of course, hit the underside of the crossbar from that side. So I think towards the end of the game, Trent picked himself up defensively. But it's just something that kind of needs to be like, he even though he does play as a wing back, sometimes almost as a winger, he's been quite solid defensively either way. It's just this game just wasn't it for him. But you know, the important thing is that we came away with a win and a clean sheet. So Trent's just gonna work on that and improve probably for the next leg.
Yeah, I don't want to be too negative because we obviously have come away with the win. And another player who perhaps didn't have his best game in a Liverpool shirt was Diogo Jota, but the person who he made way for, Bobby Firmino, turned out to ultimately be the difference. I mean, apart from scoring that goal, do you think that he offered us something that perhaps changed the tide of the game? I know he came on at the start of the second half and we didn't play brilliantly throughout, but do you think he just gave us something different?
Firmino has always been the kind of player that, you know, it's tough to pinpoint what he actually does, but you can tell that he has he's like the main player when it comes to linking up play from midfield to attack. And he did, I think he did that quite well, just went a little bit unnoticed. And I said it before, Firmino's the kind of player that when he needs to show up, he does. And I think this was a good example. He's always reminds me of that game against Spurs where the commentator just says that Firmino's not good at headers 2 seconds before he wins the game for us. I think it's an example. Same here. I heard the commentator say that Firmino has only scored once since October. Comes in, gives us that lead, and not only like in terms of changing the way we move from midfield to attack. He, by scoring that goal, like we've always been a team that as soon as we score, we just become way more confident and we start playing way better. And him getting that goal just made that impact. It's like we were two completely different teams before and after, and that showed by the fact that we also scored a second one afterwards.
Yeah, I agree completely. As soon as we scored the first, it looked like we could actually go on and score another two. I genuinely thought there was a chance we could end up winning that 3-0, which didn't seem possible by the 70th minute, which was quite incredible. So, I mean, that's not a bad trait to have. I prefer us to play well at 0-0, but you know, if we can get a goal and then start to take the game away from people, I think that's definitely not the worst trait in the world. Another player who came on, Luis Diaz, of course. I mean, he hasn't put a foot wrong since in the limited minutes he's had, has he?
Oh, he definitely hasn't. I think he's come to this team knowing that he's got a challenge ahead of him. He has Mane, Salah, Jota, Firmino to get ahead of course, 4 of the best attackers in the world, who have been so amazing for us. and he's come with the attitude to bench one of them to shine for this team, and he has shown it. And the thing about attackers is they obviously, you can tell if they're good or bad due to goals and assists, but you could tell that he changed the team when he came on. The energy he came in with was phenomenal, and honestly, I'm surprised he didn't score. He was really, really good when he came in, and I think it's that bit of energy that we needed to kick ourselves into a lead, and just played phenomenally going forward. And honestly, I'm really happy that we signed him. He's been, I think he's slowly showing that, kind of like Jota, where they come in and they play like they've been playing for Liverpool for years.
Yeah.
And that's a phenomenal trait to have when bringing new players in. And I think that's what's going to make Klopp play him even more in the following games. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him starting, or at least having more minutes against Inter at Anfield.
Yeah. And of course, we've got Norwich on the weekend as well, so that could be another big opportunity. Hyla says that substitutes changed the game today. I think it's easy to say that, and maybe a lot of people agree. I do feel that we have to take into account the fact that we scored from a set piece. Well, both goals were from set pieces. So, really, if we're trying to be as unbiased as possible, do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think it really was just quite a snatch and grab performance?
The first goal was definitely snatched and grab. It was just we were lucky to score at that point in the game. But even so, I do think that the substitutes did change the game to an extent. Again, Henderson had a phenomenal game as soon as he came in. Firmino scored the goal, so of course, and one could argue that any player can score from a corner, but at the end of the day, it was Firmino. We had a few corners, just didn't go our way up until then. And honestly, for a long time, it's been substitutes have been a problem for us. Of course, our bench not being as good as our 11, and in a lot of games we would see like some players need to come on, but Klopp just decides to sub in Milner for some reason. But I think this game I think it went perfectly in terms of substitutes, and slowly our bench is becoming better and better because, I mean, again, Luis Diaz, Naby Keita, Jordan Henderson, all of those players in our bench are players that can actually make a change when coming in, unlike before. And again, that was seen today. Luis Diaz came in with the energy. Firmino scored. Henderson just had that leadership in the back, and his passes just were class as they usually are. So I'd say after scoring the first goal, the substitutes probably shined more than they did before. But it can be said about the entire team.
Yeah, Hyler again says that Inter was so brave in this game and dominated the first 20 minutes of the second half, which is, yeah, absolutely. But after that Firmino goal, you could see the light went out in the eyes of the Inter players. Now, I'm not going to say to you, do you think this game's completely over? There's no chance of anything, but surely it's a bit of a reach to say that Inter Milan are likely to overcome a 2-0 deficit when away goals don't count for extra in that second leg at Anfield, right?
Oh, definitely. To go to the point that the lights went out in the eyes of the Inter players, 100%. I mean, as you said, they were dominating. They were dominating in the game and conceding after being that dominant. It's just a heavy punch to the gut. Just like it felt like they were robbed. And after that, they just got a little bit out of it. And going to Anfield is, of course, never easy. Even more now that, after losing 6 games last season at Anfield, we've managed to turn it into a fortress once again, and having to go there with a Martinez that just hasn't been scoring for, I think, the past 10 games. And I don't know if Barella is gonna be back for the Anfield game. If he is, then that's a really big plus. If not, then that's another heavy punch to enter. That just I wouldn't say that the tie is over, but Inter are gonna have to pull something out of the bag in order to maybe take it to extra time at least. And I just can't see us like getting like we're gonna it's Anfield. We're gonna get at least a few shots on target. So I think most of all it's gonna Barella suspended for both games. Yeah, that's really bad for Inter. That's their best midfielder. They're gone. But I think Liverpool have never been a team that just sits back even where they're winning. So I think it's gonna depend a lot on the Inter defense, because Inter are gonna have to be playing all-out attack if they want to have a chance at moving on to the next round, which is going to hurt them on counterattacks. So I think it's gonna go down mostly to Martinez and Dzeko's performance and how the defenders perform with the counterattacks.
Yeah, I mean, with the thing with Inter today, it felt like they did start to dominate as we've acknowledged, and they could have easily grabbed a goal at some point. I felt like obviously they'd be chuffed if they could have got a 1-0 win out of this, but they would have also been quite satisfied with a 0-0, because I think frustrating us in this game, they'd then fancy their chances at doing something similar at Anfield and then maybe doing a snatch and grab there. But to then actually go a goal down when it looked like we weren't going to score at all, like the game could have gone on for another 90 minutes and we wouldn't have scored, to then concede so suddenly and then to go 2-0 down, it is going to be a major blow for them. And with Barella out again, Matthias says we need 1 goal at Anfield, get 3-0 on aggregate, then I think it's all done. Right? I don't want to start sounding like the Barcelona admin, because they said something similar. They were like, Liverpool scored, but we're going to get at least 1, right? And then they never did. So let's not start going down that route, everybody. Ayush says if this was Lukaku Martinez instead of Dzeko Martinez, it would have been an even more entertaining and off-the-cuff game. Barella missing 2 is a big loss. So we're agreed that Liverpool now are massive favourites. In terms of the return leg, do you think that what we've seen in this last 10 minutes, and leading off of what you said, that when we go in front, we start to look a lot more confident, do you think that will translate to the return leg, and we'll come into that? Obviously, Inter Milan will have to play quite forward thinking. That opens up a bit of space for us as well. So do you think it could even lead to a better performance from us at home?
Definitely, because again, I mean, I think Inter players and staff looking at the game today, even though they lost 2-0, they were dominant throughout the entire game, and they would have taken a 0-0 draw before the game started. But I think what Inzaghi has to do now is go to his players and say, okay, we might have conceded twice, but look at what we have done here. We have managed to keep them at bay, and not only that, but put them under pressure throughout most of the game, which is a really, really good sign for a team that goes up against probably the second best team in the world right now. And not only that, a team that's missing their star player. And I think even though they lost, they're going to go with that energy back at Anfield, because the fact that even without their best player, they were able to dominate so much. They're gonna try to do the exact same thing in the second leg, and that's gonna be something that Klopp is gonna be looking forward to, because again, they need to score. They have to play attacking at least until they get 2 goals back. So it's gonna make our players play even better, because they know how Inter are gonna come. And I mean, Konate and Van Dijk, phenomenal game. I think by far the two best players in the game today. Just very, very solid in the back. They're going to want to recreate that. Robertson and Trent are going to improve for the next game. They know what they're up against now that they played against Inter, and they know what's coming, and it's going to be a very, very, very attacking Inter side that are going to be looking for a goal no matter what. So wouldn't be surprised if we see improvements in our defending, and not only that, improvements in our attacking too, because again, they're going to be so open at the back because of how attacking they have to be. That, you know, as who said it? As Matthias said, our attackers are going to be thinking, okay, with the amount of space they're going to leave at back, we score once or twice, and their hopes are going to be lost. They're going to be playing with their heads all over the place because at that point it seems almost impossible. But even so, you know, it's not over till it's over. And I think one thing that's going to keep Inter's heads up is the fact that away goals don't count. And while it does hurt them now in the second leg, it also favors them because now they don't need 3 goals, but 2. Because, of course, our 2 away goals don't count as, you know, now that the away goal rule is gone. They're going to go in a little bit more hopeful than if it were a rule still.
So, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So do you think that change in rules favours the team that plays at home in the second leg? Do you think momentum has swung in that direction now? Because we said in the group chat and we discussed on stream as well that before it felt like, especially when the game went to extra time, etc., it massively benefited the away team. But do you feel like now maybe that's flipped over a little bit?
Oh, I think that's definitely the case because the perfect example is the game against Atleti, where if it goes to extra time, the away team just gets an immense advantage because they score and the home team have to score twice to stay in the game. So the fact that that rule is now gone, I think that fear goes away from our players. The fact that if it does go to extra time, there's not going to be that much pressure in our defense of, okay, if we concede, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
That isn't the case anymore. And I think that's, if in the case that it does go to extra time, it's going to help our defense be a little bit more calm when it comes to taking decisions.
Hyla says it's James Milner's 800 game in his career. Unbelievable. So congratulations to James Milner. Ayush says, I think it still favours the away team at the moment. We saw Real versus PSG. Away teams are looking to come for a 0-0. Yeah, no, I get that. But when you get into the second leg, asking who it favours, I think that more or less covers everything. I mean, not the most fascinating game of all time, and it is essentially half time. So we can't get too excited. We can't start talking about the quarterfinals or our next opponent just yet, which I know some people are doing. But I'm keen not to jinx anything and not have our faces plastered on a meme page if Liverpool somehow cock it up. So I'm doing it for our own good, Chedu. I think we'll call it a day there. But again, massive thank you to everybody who was watching the watch along, hung around and came over here, or if you've just come here for the post-match reaction. Liverpool did win 2-0. It's half time, so we've got the second leg in a few weeks. Thank you to my guest, Chedu. It's been lovely having you on. And we'll see you all in the next video. Take care.